Hello, good afternoon. My name is Tom O'Halloran and this is episode 0 of The Greenhouse. Every Wednesday at 1 o'clock, I'll get on to talk to you about our local women's football club, Canberra United. I'll talk to you about how the match went, how next week's match might go. I might have some guests on sometimes. Who knows what will happen. You're listening to 87.8 UCFM. Welcome to The Greenhouse. Now, you might notice that no match has been played yet, and that's why this is episode 0. This is going to be sort of a season preview. I'll talk about some of the folks who have left the club, some of those who have arrived. I'll talk about the preseason matches we've played, how they went down, and at the end, I'll talk about a few predictions. Let's get into it. We'll start with our first and probably most important farewell, and that is our manager, Njegos Popovic. He's been here for 2 seasons. 40 games, which means he's our most capped manager ever. He's won 14 matches in charge, 11 draws, and lost 15, which actually isn't as bad as I thought it was when I was researching this. I mean, I think I've had sort of the opposite of rose-tinted glasses based on the last season. Obviously, we've struggled both on the pitch and financially, but he's done his best to steer us in the correct direction, and for that, we have to say thank you. He's been coach of Belconnen United previous to this tenure, as was the new guy, Anthony Jagerinets, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. So yeah, we have to say thank you to him for his last 2 seasons. The next one is Vesna Milivojevic, who scored 10 goals for us last season, which was the most behind Michelle Heyman. She's gone to
IFK Norrköping,
which is in the Swedish top flight league called the
Damallsvenskan.
That, by the way, that's my co-host. His name's James 3. He knows all the languages, so whenever I can't pronounce something, he'll pop on to just say it correctly. She scored 2 goals so far this season, and she's made 3 assists since she joined them in April. And I think their season is wrapping up shortly, only 1 or 2 matches to go, so hopefully she can stay there and move on to even better and bigger things. Next one's Cote Rojas. She's getting a bit older. She doesn't quite have the longevity that Michelle Heyman does, despite being the same age. She's 35. She only started in 4 matches last season, appearing in 13. She's joined Santiago Morning in the
Campeonato Nacional Fútbol Femenino
in March. They placed 3rd in the league this year, and they're now in the quarterfinals because I guess they have those over in Chile. So hopefully she can push on and try and win that competition there. Next is Nikki Flannery. She's been here for a long time. She debuted in 2015, and she's played 87 games for us in 2 separate stints. She played for the Jets and for APL Leichhardt in between in the New South Wales NPL. She's been absolutely crucial on that wing. She's been assisting Michelle Heyman for a long time now. And she's joined Melbourne Victory for the upcoming season. Emma Ilioski is the next one. She's played 55 matches for us, and she's been absolutely crucial in midfield since she debuted in 2020. She's joined Scottish side Hearts, who currently sits 3rd, so hopefully she's making a big impact on that club. Over the years, she's become sort of a climate activist off the pitch, collaborating with a lot of organisations to talk about that. Sasha Grove, oh my God, it cannot be understated how important she has been last season. She's a product of the academy, Canberra born, and she's played 47 matches for Canberra, and she's just been such a useful defender over those last 2 seasons, and a wing-back as well. I mean, she's made countless runs up that left side, and the right side actually when she's needed to. And you just know, as an attacker on her wing, you should be expecting to see her up under your legs at any moment's notice. She's gone to Western United alongside our starting keeper last season, Chloe Lincoln. Both young Matildas. Grove has 17 caps and Lincoln has 19 caps. Obviously, Chloe Lincoln, she was so useful for us. You saw for those few matches after she got that red card, we really struggled without her. And so hopefully our replacement for her, which I will mention later, can be just as helpful. Some other players who have left the side, Sarah Clark has gone to Spokane Zephyr in the USL Super League. That's sort of like the 2nd division for the NWSL over there. She's been here for the last 6 months and she's been fairly helpful. Another one that's gone back to the States is Cannon Clough. She's gone and joined Carolina Ascent. She's been here for the last season, and I think she's been a bit of a liability at times, so I'm not super mad to see her go, is all I'll say. Ava Piazza, she's gone to the Newcastle Jets. She's been here for the last season. Also to the Jets is Devon Jackson, the Kiwi. She's been here for the last season as well. But that's all the players who have left us. And now for their replacements. Anthony Jager-Rinitz, he's the big man, that really tall guy in the box. He's been the assistant coach for the last 2 seasons, which may ring some alarm bells given our performance over the last 2 seasons. But he's been really strengthening the squad, and I think he's changed the system a little bit on the field. So I don't have any concerns. Hopefully he can move us on to fight for finals, even make finals, we'll see. Multiple times he's been champion with Belconnen United over the past couple seasons, just like Njegos, and he's also been the assistant coach for O'Connor Knights men, and he was in the box against MacArthur in that Australia Cup tie at GIO. And he's been a part of the Canberra football scene for a very, very long time, so I'm looking forward to his tenure here. Sally James, a big one, big signing. She's probably she is replacing Chloe Lincoln. She's almost definitely going to be the first choice keeper. She's taken that number 1 jersey, which is enough proof. She's actually from Canberra. She's 22 years old and she's signed from Perth Glory. She's already played 3 matches for Canberra, which is not many, but she was undefeated through those 3 matches, and she's made 19 appearances in the competition all up. As a junior, she played for Majura FC and Belconnen United, and she's made appearances for the Young Matildas in her time. Liz Anton is probably going to be the replacement for Cannon Clough. She's New Zealand international in that centre-back sort of role. She's 25 years old and we've signed her from Perth Glory. She's played 60 matches in the league, so she brings good experience to that defensive line. And she's featured in a number of junior and senior Silver Ferns teams, making 20 caps for the seniors. She was at the Olympics in Tokyo and in the 2023 World Cup, so hopefully she'll be fairly consistent for us this season. Actually, her debut goal, ironically, was against us, Canberra United, in 2021. Janaya Dos Santos, I'm really excited for her to play this season. She's 19 years old. She'll be probably a replacement for Devon Jackson, someone like that. And she's signed from Sydney FC, where she played with her sister, Indiana Dos Santos. Those two together are really, really lethal for Sydney FC. And so she's got the huge potential to be one of our key players this season. She's made 12 appearances for the Young Matildas, scoring 4 goals, and so she's certain to be a future Matilda. Maya Markovsky, we've signed her from Bulleen Lions in the Victorian NPL. She's played for Melbourne Victory though. Obviously didn't make it work that time. Hopefully she can on her second time around. She's had a pretty strong showing in pre-season. She scored 2 goals against the All-Stars. She should form a pretty good partnership with Michelle Heyman, and she could be a pretty good investment for the future. Obviously, Michelle Heyman's getting older, 35 now. She doesn't seem to be slowing down that much. If anything, she's speeding up, but she should be useful in case Michelle Heyman gets injured or if she decides to retire at any point. Last season, she received the Golden Boot and Player of the Year while playing for Bulleen in the Victorian NPL. So hopefully she'll continue that momentum with Canberra. Aideen Keane, she's an attacker, although she has been playing a little bit in the midfield in pre-season, so she'll maybe be playing there. I believe she's pretty versatile, which is what we need. She's from Sydney. She's made 24 appearances in the A-League. We've signed her from Sydney FC. She's also played for the Wanderers and for Perth. Darcy Malone is another one, another midfielder. She's a former under-16 Matilda. We've signed her from Sydney FC as well. She played for the MacArthur Rams a few years ago, and they won 3 titles in a row in the New South Wales NPL. So hopefully she can bring that firepower to the club. She's also played for Melbourne City in the past. Beth Gordon, another midfielder. She's also played for the Rams, and she was pretty crucial in that squad as far as I'm aware. She played 94 minutes for Canberra back in 2017, and she's gone on to play for the Jets and the Wanderers, where we've signed her from. She's made 38 appearances in the competition. Emma Robers, a veteran, very versatile as well. She's 26 years old, and she's played 44 matches between Victory and Western United. And she's made finals in all 5 of her seasons in the A-League, so hopefully she'll make it a 6th with us. Jaya Bowman is just 16 years old. We've signed her from Canberra Olympic on a scholarship deal. She won the Capital NPL with Olympic this season. She also won Player of the Year. She was part of a trial match between a number of NPL players that occurred earlier this season. And she also played in the United Academy when it existed. Speaking of that trial match, there was another few players that signed just this morning at about 10 a.m. It was announced. Those 3 players are Tiana Miro, Janet King, and Ivana Galic, all from the NPL. And they also were playing in that All-Stars match. So obviously they had a good enough showing to be training with the professionals now. Now let's move on to our pre-season matches. There were 2 of them. The first one was against the NPL All-Stars, like I've mentioned a few times. This one was a comfortable win, which is what we expected against semi-professionals and even amateurs. But I think there's definitely good signs from that match, even against the weaker opposition. Michelle Heyman and Maya Markovsky both looking huge, looking like they'll form that partnership up front, both scoring 2 goals in the match. Tegan Bertolicio unfortunately fell early, seeming to pick up sort of an injury in her hamstring. I'm not sure what happened there, but she has to be substituted as Sophia Christofferson took her place there. Hopefully she has improved or will improve before the match on Saturday. It was 6-0 in the end, and Michelle Heyman scored the first, coming from a Maya Markovsky cross low into the middle of the box. And Michelle, just being Michelle, scored it from close range, timed it excellently, perfect. The NPL keeper from that match was Janet King, who obviously made a good enough showing. I mean, she made a fair few saves. It could have been 7-0, 8-0, 9-0, even more than that. But no, Janet King performed excellently, and obviously Ant has recognised that. The second was also Michelle Heyman. It was her final goal of the game. She was subbed off just after half-time, probably to keep her uninjured. The NPL players were a little bit rough throughout the match, which is what you wanted them to be. But yeah, just preserving her health. That goal was from a Janaya dos Santos through ball. The second half went pretty much the same. We continued to press hard on the All-Stars defence. And Coco Majstorovic, who is going to be our backup keeper again for the season, she did not have to make a single save all match. And the girl that replaced her sort of 70 minutes in, Georgia Ritchie, who was probably our backup keeper, I think she only had to make 1 save. So not a huge attacking threat was posed by the All-Stars. But our third was scored by Maya Markovsky from a Stanic Floody free kick. 2 minutes later, Ruby Nathan forced a save from King and scored it on the rebound, made it 4. Markovsky got the 5th and her second from sort of just a loose ball bouncing around in the box. Struck it excellently, and Mary Stanic Floody scored an absolute screamer from 30 metres out, straight over the head of King, and it sealed the scoreline at 6-0. It's obviously a much weaker side than the opponents will be facing in the A-League, but it's still a fantastic test for the girls. And I think we took advantage of it excellently. We played very well on the ball, something we sort of often failed to do last season. So I think based on that one, things are definitely looking up. And then we go to the match in Albury against Melbourne Victory. That happened just this Thursday. I unfortunately was not there. I had too many assignments, and 4-hour drive is just a little bit too much during such a hectic period. And unfortunately, there's not much information I can find on the match. There's no match report from either club, which is bizarre given that our socials were hyping it up a lot. So they just sort of went dead after that. And all the knowledge I could find came from Victory supporters on Twitter. But from what I could gather, Victory played a slightly weaker starting 11 from usual, and that we looked a lot better than last year, even with Michelle Heyman away on Tilly's duty. It was 0-0 in the end, so definitely an improvement from last year's results against Victory. We lost both of those, and reportedly Markovsky looked very good, and Victory fans seemed pleased that she'd gotten a second chance in the dub. So that brings us to the end of the pre-season matches. Hopefully, based on those two improvements from last season seems to be the theme. Now predictions. I'm thinking 8th for the season. Just sort of fighting for finals, not quite making it there at the end. I'm thinking Wellington in 7th, Newcastle in 9th around us, Melbourne City to finish top. I think it's got to be them or Victory or Sydney, who I've got 2nd and 3rd. I think it might be predictable this year, but we'll see how that goes. See if I'm eating my words by the end of the season. Lineup. This is the lineup I'd like to see at least. Obviously, Ant has been training with them, so he knows. I'm thinking Sally James to sit in goals. I think that's, like I mentioned, fairly obvious. She's got the number 1 jersey. She's got the most experience. I think Mai Saric will be ready to be that backup when she needs to be. But Sally James to be the starting keeper. Centre backs, Liz Anton, the new signing, and Alex McKenzie. Potentially Sophia Christopherson, although she might slot into left back if Bertolicio is not ready for the season. But if she is, I expect Bertolicio to be in that wing back position. She was there sort of acting like a bit of a Sasha Grove last season. Hard tackles, and I think she'll continue this season. Hayley Taylor-Young, I'd say, is on the other side of the park there. In that right back, but I think either of them could be in either position. And then just sitting in front of them, I'd say Emma Robers, Aideen Keane, and Holly Murray to be sort of that midfield 3. I think Aideen Keane will act sort of like an anchor, dragging the midfield and the defence around her. I think she'll be very pivotal in build-up play, especially passing it up to Dos Santos. I've got in sort of an attacking midfield position. I've gone for a 4-3-1-2, and I think just Dos Santos will work excellently there. She was sort of playing in that position a little bit during the pre-season, and I think she's got what it takes to be such an important role in the squad. And then up front, unsurprisingly, Michelle Heyman, and then Maya Markovsky, like I've been saying, alongside her. Dos Santos could sub in for Markovsky there. They could switch around. Dos Santos could even sit on the wing with Markovsky occupying the other wing, and then Michelle Heyman acting as sort of a target player, I guess, just to chuck balls onto. She's usually pretty good at handling those. I'd say the top scorer will either be Michelle Heyman or Maya Markovsky. Probably Michelle Heyman, but we'll have to see what Markovsky can do. Top in assists will, I reckon, either be Markovsky or Dos Santos, just on whether Dos Santos can keep getting those throwables in like we saw in pre-season. And I think best player will be I haven't got one pick. I can't pick, but it's going to be either Michelle Heyman, Maya Markovsky, Janaya Dos Santos, or Sally James there. If we end up on the lower end of the table, I think James could be very useful in preventing a lot of goals. And why don't we just touch on that Matildas game last night while I have time. A little bit shaky at the start, I thought. A bit similar to that Switzerland game, but overall, I think a much better performance. We sort of found our feet just after Alexandra Pop came off. I don't know if she was so useful to the side that they sort of collapsed when she wasn't there, but I don't know. We just seemed to look much stronger without her on the pitch, I guess. It could have probably been more than one for Germany. Obviously, they lost 2-1 to us. I think they could have scored. They should have scored 2 or 3 in that first half alone. But I mean, I think we sort of silenced them after that Cooney cross shot. I mean, it was like 30, 40 metres out. Keeper was well out of her box and just had a crack, and it went in. So that's her first goal, Kyra Cooney cross, which is surprising. I think she's been scoring so prolifically for Melbourne Victory that you'd expect her to be scoring just as well for the Matildas, but that was her first in her 50th match, so good on you, Kyra. And then everything sort of slowed down a bit for 10, 20, 30 minutes. Like I said, maybe it seemed to silence the Germans. I mean, we weren't doing much after that ourselves, but at least we were up. And then another first goal for Claire Hunt as she headed home in a very busy sort of penalty box off a corner from Caitlin Ford. So very well done to those two. And then that ironically seemed to wake them up a little bit, and they had a few huge chances before that final whistle. I thought they were definitely going to equalise there, but Mackenzie Arnold stepped up a few times, made some great saves. So Tom Samani is obviously doing wonders already. I started to doubt him a little bit after that Switzerland match. Hopefully this can help us recover quickly from sort of that abysmal performance in the Olympics. Anyway, that is me for today and for this week. You can catch Canberra United at home at McKellar Park in a few days. Saturday the 2nd of November at 4 p.m. against Brisbane Roar. Hopefully should be a good start to the season, given that Brisbane Roar, they haven't looked their best for the past few seasons. This is a replay of that last match from last season that we won and hopped over them to get 11th. So hopefully we can start the season off strong and start with a win. But yeah, that's me for this week. I will see you next week, Wednesday 1 p.m. as usual on 87.8 UCFM or on iHeartRadio.com. I'm Tom O'Halloran. Thank you for listening.